Firing off the Poison Fang that does hit Azumarill for super effective. The opponent can throw whatever they like. You already know it's time to two-shield the Donny, aka the motherfucking GOAT, Shadow Swampert. We come in with Swampert, and it is Ferrothorn. In the back, things are looking pretty tricky. We are going to shield this up. The opponent still has one shield, but we do not bait on this channel. We force them the Earthquake. The opponent shows no respect. Get fucking wrecked, Ferrothorn, who was worried back out. Comes Azumarill. I've already nuked him once, but does the opponent respect the damage? So, welcome back to the home of Shadow Pokemon. The season is almost 2 weeks in, and I have not showcased any of my own gameplay because, quite frankly, I much prefer shoutcasting. But a lot of people have asked me what I am running. So, when I'm not messing about, the team that I actually try and climb with is this. It is Swampert, aka the GOAT, with the new buffed Golbat, Absolute Donny, as well, with Drapion on the safe switch. Without any further ado, let's get into the battles and take a look at my strongest triple shadow team for Season 13. And in Game 1, we saw Azumarill in the lead. I made an immediate pivot into our Drapion. The opponent stayed in, looked to catch a Sludge Bomb on the Metachan. I did not throw. I land the Crunch Fishing for the defense drop. We throw the Sludge Bomb the second time because Sludge Bomb would knock out. The opponent had shielded it up, and at this stage, Drapion has done its job. We pretty much use it as a damage sponge. The opponent fires off an Ice Punch that does not knock out, and Drapion makes one more crunch. Does the opponent want to double shield? They do not. Down goes Metachan. The opponent comes back in with Azumarill. They commit to the bubble farm down, and things are looking somewhat promising. I come back in with Swampert. The opponent has a whole boatload of energy. We are calling no Hydro Pump. Play Rough does some big damage. The opponent is going to have to throw. Again, I am not going to shield this up. I could shield it up and Earthquake, but Earthquake is not going to knock out from this stage, so we're going to put it all on the new buffed Golbat. The opponent is going to stay, and I'm over farming. We go straight for the hard-hitting Shadow Ball. This, if it lands, will put them into Wing Attack farm down. The opponent showed no respect. You can see we sneak the Wing Attack. I am going to shield up. Whatever they throw, commit to the Wing Attack farm down, and we're going to have residual energy good to go. And in the back, it is Sableye. Once again, no baits on this channel. Does the opponent respect the Shadow Ball? Yes, they do. We are still going to outpace to the next Shadow Ball. Well, not outpace. I'm just going to shield up whatever they throw. And they can eat another Shadow Ball to the face, and it's going to be high Sableye. Bye Sableye. GG's, and thanks for playing. Golbat showing its power in Game 1. Moving on to the next one. We see Alolan Marowak in the lead. Pretty good for Swampert. The opponent answers with Swampert's worst nightmare, Shadow Vic. But the irony is that we've got Shadow Vic's worst nightmare in Golbat. We absolutely resist everything. The opponent fires the Leaf Blade. That pretty much heals Golbat. Golbat is now absolutely loaded. The opponent's final Pokemon is Wallface, and Wallface can eat a Shadow Ball to the face. We are going to make a second Shadow Ball. This opponent is ABA weak to Swampert. I would not recommend that. This opponent is now into the yellow. We bring in Swampert. Swampert is going to throw the Hydro Cannon. I am going to either be getting a shield or knocking out. The opponent chooses to shield it up. This game is absolutely over. I don't need to shield this up, as Drapion would be able to close, but fuck it, Wallface. I am going to look to farm them all the way down. The opponent not switching out. Swampert is now at the back-to-back moves, and the opponent concedes the match. GG's. Moving on to the next one. We see Scrafty in the lead. We're in Season 13, and still this fighter hasn't got a fucking belt or pulled its trousers up. The opponent goes straight for the power-up punch. I absolutely am not shielding that up. I am going to throw the Hydro Cannon on 9, and then I'm going to look to catch the power-up punch on Golbat. The opponent spammed the move as soon as they got it the first time, and this opponent does not disappoint me, and they spam out yet another power-up punch. Golbat shrugs it off, and the opponent now answers with Alolan Marowak. They're already down one shield. Even if they had 2 shields, there's no baiting. We go straight for the Shadow Ball. Shadow Ball draws a shield from the opponent. They are now all shields down. I'm just going to take shield advantage. The opponent throws the Shadow Bone. Shadow Bone does big damage. They now commit to the farm down, but we've got residual energy good to go. I've got no idea what's in the back, so I am going to throw one Mud Shot and then go for the world's cheekiest undercharge. The opponent will make a charge move, but I am just going to shield it up. Look to leave with a move, which is what we do here. You can see the undercharge is a beauty if I do say so myself. We've got the Hydro Cannon locked and loaded. Back out comes Scrafty. I'm going to spam the Hydro Cannon, make a pivot into Drapion. This puts it into Poison Sting farm down range. The opponent staying in. They must be weak in the back. This could be a foul play. They have built up to 7. Foul play would obviously do more than power up punch, and it is a foul play. And the opponent's final Pokemon is Swampert. Swampert might be a ground type, but Drapion really doesn't care. First crunch gets them down to around 50% HP, and the second crunch is going to knock out. GG's, and thanks for playing. Judging by the whole boatload of lag we get, the opponent probably force closed the app, but that isn't going to save you from the wrath of Shadow Drapion. Moving on to the next one, we see Altaria in the lead, absolutely dreadful. We safe switch into Drapion and we see a mud slap Excadrill. Some would say it's the algorithm, but I say it is what it fucking is. This is absolutely dreadful. The opponent shielded the first crunch, which was a mistake. If we would have got the defense shot, this second crunch would knock out. We didn't, but it still gets Excadrill deep in the red. At this stage, I'm just going to put it all on Golbat, 2 shields, and pray to the Pokegods, hoping we can beat whatever is in the back. We tank the drill run, we commit to the mud shot down. You can see my switch timer doesn't pop. We don't make the Hydro Cannon. We are in an absolute mess. Altaria is going to fire off a move. I have to start shielding absolutely everything. They throw the Sky Attack. I'm going to go straight for the Shadow Ball. I'm over farming as much as I can. I am worried they are going to try and catch on something that does resist Shadow Ball. We land the Shadow Ball. Can we wing attack? Farm them down? We cannot. I am going to have to shield this up now as well. Show me something we can beat in the back. I commit to the wing attack, farm down. We are now sitting in a tricky spot, and it is Defense Deoxys. There's no reason to shield the first move, so I am going to YOLO the Shadow Ball. The opponent actually shielded it up, which is a huge mistake. You can see, if I would have baited, I would have made the Shadow Ball the second time and perhaps won. Holy smokes, these early ranks are the Wild West. Moving on to the next one. We see Skarmory in the lead. Swampert pretty comfortable in this matchup. It's a very clean win. In the one shield, I farm up to 7, which is 14 turns versus 15 turns, the correct timing. The opponent let it go. I am going to shield up the Sky Attack. I'm then going to throw 4 more Mud Shots and the next Hydro Cannon. The opponent is now 2 away from the next Sky Attack. The opponent chooses to shield it up, and we are going to throw 3 more Mud Shots, throw the Hydro Cannon on a CMP tie to maximise our energy gain. The opponent actually chooses to double shield. I could shield this up and win the 2 shield, but Drapion will be able to come in, over farm just a touch. Again, I'm going to throw on 7 to maximise my energy gain. I do want to save a shield for either Golbat or Drapion, as I am super squishy, so we might need the shield. We do manage to take care of the Skarmory, and the opponent brings in a Hitmontop. Holy smokes, that is spicy. We go for the Sludge Bomb. Sludge Bomb does some big damage. The opponent's final Pokemon is the Balloon. The Balloon is going to get outpaced, and Shadow Ball is absolutely going to be night-night. Sleep tight Drifblim. The Balloon gets absolutely popped. Back out comes Hitmontop, and they concede the match. Moving on to the next one. We see the Pesky Tree in the lead. Absolutely dreadful. This time I pivot into Golbat, and the opponent brings in a Charge Beam Lantern. Interesting. Charge Beams are absolutely chunky. They do considerably more damage than the Spark. However, I landed the YOLO Shadow Ball. The opponent actually no shields the Poison Fang as well. I'll be honest, I don't know the counts for Charge Beam. I'm going to shield this up. It's only a Surf. Hopefully, they're not at the back-to-back. This opponent is at the back-to-back. I really hope Golbat does survive. Golbat, super squishy, but who was worried? We've managed to flip switch advantage in a really negative matchup. Once again, the key is no baits on this channel. The opponent brings back out Trevenant. They do commit to the Shadow Claw farm down. We've got a great response, though, in our Drapion, and the opponent's final Pokemon is Umbreon. So I'm just going to use Swampert as a damage sponge. I've just got to save my shield for Drapion, and we should be able to win this game. The super spammy Swampert fires the first Hydro Cannon. That gets Umbreon into the yellow. I fire off the second Hydro Cannon on a CMP tie. This will not knock out, but will put them into Poison Sting farm down range. The opponent chooses to shield it up, not wanting to get Poison Stung down. However, that shield is going to cost them. I think they're pretty fucked. Either way, as Drapion, the channel mascot, is going to put on a clinic to close out this battle. The opponent can fire whatever they like. They bait me with a foul play, and I show no respect. They now come in to Trevenant. This is just a Seed Bomb, so I'm showing no respect. Seed Bomb does nothing. We're at the back-to-back crunches. First crunch should be drawing the last shield, which it does, but guess what, Tree? Have crunch number 2. Hi, Tree. Bye, Tree. Get fucking wrecked. When Umbreon does return, we are going to be able to Sludge Bomb it to the face, and Drapion closes in style. You can see my big fat thumb managed to lock my screen. We only hit a great, but Drapion still powerful enough to close. GG's. Moving on to the next one. We see the flying toilet in the lead, dreadful for Swampert, so we make an immediate pivot into our Drapion. The opponent is staying in, farming up a boatload of energy. We spam out the Crunch, Pelipper, super spammy, but not the bulkiest, and that actually did some big damage. The opponent farms out to what could be a Hurricane. I show no respect, and it is just a Weather Ball. We're already at Crunch. Number 2, the opponent is going to be forced to either shield or let it go. We fire off the next Crunch and get the defense drop. The opponent shits their pants, spamming out another Weather Ball, and now somehow we are in a pretty good spot from what seemed like a rough place to be. I am going to be switch locked, whereas the opponent isn't, so I wait out my timer, try and wing attack down, but Pelipper far too spammy. They fire off one more Weather Ball for the road, and Weather Ball does some decent damage. The opponent comes in to a Azumarill, and at this stage I've decided if you've got Pelipper in the lead, Swampert might be good at closing, so I'm just going to 2-shield my goat. Let's hope it doesn't come back to bite me in the fucking arse. The opponent fires off the Ice Beam. As soon as they get it, I bring in Swampert, and it's Ferrothorn. Holy smokes, these 2 shields might not be particularly useful. The opponent is going to fire off the Power Whip. I am going to shield it up. We need to land a Earthquake, and guess what, Mr. Opponent? I am not motherfucking baiting. We go for the YOLO. They show no respect. Get fucking wrecked. Down they go, back out. Comes the Energy Dry Azumarill. I throw 4 Mud Shots, and I'm going to YOLO Earthquake. Number 2. Does the opponent respect the damage? They do not. And Swampert once again proves who's the king of the Great League. Moving on to the next one. We see Lantern in the lead. This one is actually on Spark. Probably the correct move. Either Spark or Water Gun is the way to go. The opponent fires off a Thunderbolt. Interesting. The opponent now aggressively brings in Primeape. We're going to go for the Hydro Cannon, which does draw a shield, and now pivot into Golbat. Primeape does have access to Ice Punch. Ice Punch will be super effective. It is going to do a lot of damage, but we're not in danger of getting countered down, so I overfarm, go for the Shadow Ball. Shadow Ball is definitely going to guarantee the knockout. Poison Fang probably would have, but fuck it, we'll YOLO. Nonetheless, the opponent actually double shields. Holy smokes. I'm just going to allow Golbat to go down. The Primeape is so low, I can just come in with Drapion, commit to the Poison Sting, farm down and leave with residual energy, and I've still got 2 shields. The opponent's final Pokemon is the Bear Trap, Galarian Stunfisk. Drapion is just going to stay in, do as much damage as possible, and Swampert with 2 shields is going to have no problem cleaning up this game. We've already landed the first Crunch. Drapion, super spammy, fires off Crunch. Number 2, the Bear Trap now deep in the red. Rock Slide probably enough to knock out at this range. Let's see. Yes, it is, but Swampert has the Hydro Cannon locked and loaded. This is just going to be a Rock Slide, most likely. I do commit a shield. The opponent actually YOLOs the Earthquake. Holy smokes. That means we can Mud Shot farm them all the way down. We leave with the Earthquake, and it's going to be night night, sleep tight, Lantern. GG's, and thanks for playing. Moving on to the next one. We see another Lantern in the lead. A pretty decent matchup for Swampert. 2 Surfs do knock out the Shadow variant. The opponent looks to CMP tie to a potential Earthquake, as this opponent is rocking a Legend pose. You can see I go for the cheeky pause and then fire the Earthquake. I don't want him to catch it on something that is resisted, and the Mind Games force the opponent into shielding. I now pivot into Drapion, and the opponent fires off the Thunderbolt. Thunderbolt does do some big damage, and then they switch out into Sableye, so apparently they haven't got a great answer for Drapion. We land the first Crunch. That does 50% of the HP. The opponent is going to fire off the Foul Play. I've got no intentions of shielding up Drapion, even resisted. That does knock out. As I've got shield advantage, this is a great opportunity to come in with Golbat, shield once, commit to the wing attack, farm down, and we'll have a whole boatload of energy to fire at that Lantern when it does choose to return. We do get the wing attack, farm down. I'm looking top right. Is it Lantern? Mr. Opponent? Yes, it is, and you already know there's no baiting, but does this opponent realise that? We go for the Shadow Ball, and Shadow Ball makes Lantern look fairly squishy. The opponent chooses to fire up the Surf. I am going to shield this up. As I've got so much energy, I'm then going to look to get towards the back-to-back Poison Fangs. Poison Fang more than enough to knock out from this range. The opponent shields it up, obviously lost track of our energy. We're at Poison Fang. Number 2, I'm really hoping it's not a Grass type in the back, and it is Meganium. Things do look tricky, but stay in school, kids. Learn to count. We'll just sack Swampert here. Meganium can hit no bubbles, but Swampert, taking double super effective, will not survive. We've got the super effective Poison Fang locked and loaded, and Golbat manages to sweep the team. GG's, and thanks for playing. Moving on to the next battle, we see the battle of the Swamperts. It is the Shadow. Obviously, there you go. Versus the regular. And fuck it. I'm going to YOLO an Earthquake. Does the opponent respect the damage? Yes, they do. Ouch. That is pretty tricky. The opponent, I believe, is going to bait me with a Hydro Cannon. We call the Hydro Cannon. The opponent fires off Hydro Cannon. Number 2, Swampert is deep in the red, but we are going to be able to land a Hydro Cannon. On this opponent, they come in. To Trevenant, we bank the Hydro Cannon pivot into our Drapion. And we are now sitting in a pretty good spot. The opponent fires the Shadow Ball, which is the correct play. Shadow Ball does a lot more damage than the Seed Bomb. We are going to return fire with the Crunch. One-shots Trevenant. If Swampert does return, we are going to be able to outpace to the Crunch. Crunch won't knock up. I will leave Swampert super low. The opponent chooses to shield it up. They do commit to the Mud Shot Farm Down. I've got the Hydro Cannon locked and loaded. You can see I've got 6 attack. I bank on the fact I would win CMP. It's going to be Night. Sleep Tight Swampert. I'm spamming out into Golbat, and it is the Bear Trap in the back. Things don't look great, but we tank 1 Rock Slide, no problem, and we're going to go for the back-to-back Shadow Balls. I look to throw on CMP. The opponent chooses to take the extra Shadow Ball, does huge damage. As we still have 1 shield, the opponent looking to get to the back-to-back moves. They make it on a CMP, and Golbat is going to clean up. GG's, and thanks for playing. Golbat, such a sleeper pick. That wing attack buff has made it absolutely lethal. Moving on to the next battle, we see Altaria in the lead, immediate pivot into Drapion, and the opponent answers us with Whiscash. I do fire 5 Poison Stings and the Crunch to try and go for a CMP tie. We land the Crunch, get the defense drop. Mud Bomb will not knock out. It's 5-4 to the charge move. So I'm going to throw 4 more Poison Stings and look to CMP tie him. Once again, it looks like the opponent has fallen for the CMP. Crunch actually draws a shield. So holy smoke, despite us being in a really bad matchup, we have gained shield advantage. Whiscash is energy dry. I am going to come back in to my Swampert. We are going to tank 1 Mud Bomb. If the opponent throws it immediately, if they build up to the Blizzard, I would have to respect it. The opponent does fire off a Mud Bomb. We're going to continue to overfarm. We need as much energy as possible. And I decide I'm going to look to catch the next Mud Bomb on Golbat. Mud Bomb is resisting. We've banked a whole boatload of energy on Swampert in case I am going to get stuck in that Altaria matchup later. The opponent switches out into the Kentucky Fried Chicken, Bird of Death, and again, Shadow Ball. The opponent shows no respect, and holy smokes, they near get 1 shot. This is the easiest shield of my life. We shield up the Flame Charge, commit to the Wing Attack Farm Down. If they bring back in Whiscash, which they do, I'm really hoping I can Wing Attack Farm Down before the next Mud Bomb. Mud Bomb is resisted. I need to survive with enough health to not be in 1 Dragon Breath range, and holy crap, absolute heartbreak. 1 Dragon Breath takes us out. If we could get the debuff on this Altaria, I think we would actually be in a pretty good spot, but you can see we didn't, and despite Swampert being super spammy, 3 Hydro Cannons isn't going to be enough to take this game. Obviously, I would have shielded this up if we got the debuff off and maybe won. Moving on to the next one. We see Defense Deoxys in the lead. The opponent fires off the Psycho Boost immediately. Golbat really doesn't want to eat a Psycho Boost, so I am going to respect it. The opponent now brings in Trevenant, and I answer with Golbat. I am going to go for a Poison Fang to lower the defense. The opponent chooses to shield it up, and then they are going to return fire. I've got no intentions of shielding this up. The opponent goes for a triple resisted Seed Bomb, and holy smokes, that definitely wasn't the play. Golbat fires off 1 more Poison Fang. Poison Fang goes unshielded. The opponent managed to give our shield back, and it is Bastiodon in the back. I'm not going to make the Shadow Ball, so I'm going to lower their defense with a Poison Fang. The opponent is still going to be switch locked, so I come back in with Swampert. There's no baiting. We go straight for the kill shot. The opponent chooses to shield up the Earthquake. They now bring in Defense Deoxys, and Drapion is the perfect answer. We are going to spam out a Crunch. Crunch is going to do big damage to Defense Deoxys. The opponent can fire off whatever they like. I really couldn't give a fuck. The opponent goes for the Thunderbolt. I know the opponent is going to look to Psycho Boost, so I throw 5 Poison Stings and CMP tie him. This means that the Bastiodon is going to get even less farms. I took a lot more counter damage than I needed to. The opponent does smack us down all the way, and I am going to flex on this opponent because I fucking hate Wall Face. The opponent goes for the Stone Edge. Swampert, still with a shield, shrugs it off. We reach the Earthquake, and it's going to be Night, Sleep Type Bastiodon. Fuck you. Kind regards from your best mate, the GOAT of the Great League, Shadow Swampert. Honestly, no hard feelings when I use Bastiodon, but I really hate it. Moving on to the next one. We see Pelipper in the lead. We immediately pivot into Drapion. The opponent did shield up the Crunch. I'm calling the Weather Ball. And this opponent YOLO's a Hurricane. Fair play, Mr. Opponent. We do love a YOLO on this channel. However, this is pretty problematic. I now have to come in to Golbat. The opponent is going to look to overfarm quite a lot. They actually make a great catch, or so they would think, on a Poison Fang. But Mr. Opponent, we don't bait. They switch out to catch a Shadow Ball on Metachan. We wing attack farm them all the way down. The opponent's final Pokemon is Registeel. I bank the Shadow Ball, pivot into Swampert. I've still got 2 shields. I've got no intentions of shielding up Swampert. Focus Blast does not one-shot. I am going to return fire with the Earthquake. And I'm just going to save 2 shields for the bat, as that Pelipper did exit with a whole boatload of energy. The opponent did shield up the Earthquake. We make the Hydro Cannon. This Hydro Cannon should put them into Shadow Ball range. Hydro Cannon does land for big damage. The opponent does come in, do wing attack us down. You can see I've got the Shadow Ball locked and loaded. I'm going to shield up whatever the opponent throws. They do YOLO another Hurricane. Good play from the opponent. They would need to land it to take us out. I go for the Shadow Ball. Down goes Pelipper. Back out comes the Tin Can. I'm just going to shield up whatever they throw. It is the Flash Cannon. Flash Cannon, pretty interesting moveset. Most are on Zap Cannon and Focus Blast. This opponent isn't, but it makes no difference as Golbat sweeps. GG's and thanks for playing. We see public enemy #1 Bastiodon in the lead. I'm doing a little dance around my living room, and like a noob, I switch out super late. If you switch out within 1 counter, you do CMP to the Psychic and Shadow Ball. As I switched out late, I am forced to give up a shield. The opponent does go for the Psychic. I overfarm just a touch. I am going to return fire with the Shadow Ball. Shadow Ball goes unshielded. I did hit a nice, but it's still one-shots. Back out comes Wallface, and let's see if my really slow switching is going to cost me. Golbat fires off the Shadow Ball. You can see Golbat hits pretty hard. Bastiodon super thick, but it still did respectable damage. We come in to Swampert. The opponent is going to fire a charge move. Stone Edge doesn't do a whole great deal. The opponent is still switch locked. The Mud Shots are doing so much damage. They should be in near Hydro Cannon range. The opponent doesn't shield it up. They don't quite get knocked out. A couple more Mud Shots manages to take him out, and the opponent's final Pokemon is Trevenant. What the heck is his opponent staying in for? They shield up the Hydro Cannon, fearing we might have Sludge Wave. We do not. The opponent is now in a really rough spot. I've got no idea why they didn't just switch out, but it is what it is. The opponent fires off the Shadow Ball. Shadow Ball doesn't knock out Drapion. Now at the back-to-back moves. 1 Crunch will draw the shield. The second would knock out, and the opponent just lets it go. Moving on to the next battle, we see Sandslash in the lead. Pretty good for Swampert. Hydro Cannon doesn't one-shot, but you already know Earthquake absolutely does. We tank the Ice Punch, I overfarm. Return fire with the kill shot does the opponent. Respect the Earthquake. They do not. They get one shot. I'm looking top right. I see Trevenant, so I spam out into our save switch of Drapion, and the opponent's final Pokemon is a very cool, shiny looking Charizard. We fire off the Crunch. Crunch draws a shield from the opponent. I've got residual energy on Swampert, so I don't really see the point in shielding up Drapion. The opponent goes for a Dragon Claw. Dragon Claw, not enough to knock out. We fire off 1 more Crunch. Crunch goes unshielded. The opponent is going to fire off 1 more Dragon Claw. Drapion can allow itself to go down, and Golbat up 2 shields is going to be more than enough to clean up this battle. The opponent switches out into Trevenant. This could be a Shadow Ball, so I am going to respect it. The opponent goes for the Shadow Ball. I am now going to return fire with a Poison Fang. Although I don't bait, Poison Fang is definitely enough to knock out from this range. The opponent does shield it up. They build up to what could be another Shadow Ball, and for no reason whatsoever, I catch it on Swampert, and the Madman chose to go for a bait. So on 1 HP and a Dream, I am going to fire off the Shadow Ball, and that is going to be all she wrote. GG's, and thanks for playing. Moving on to the final battle of the video, we see Swampert into the Kentucky Fried Chicken, Bird of Death. I fire off 7 Mud Shots and the Hydro Cannon, which is 1 turn before Talonflame gets to what could be a Brave Bird. The opponent overfarms by 1. I'm not calling any baits today. The opponent actually baits me with a Flame Charge. Man, that feels bad. They now bring out Azumarill, and we answer with the monster that is known as Drapion. Drapion goes straight for the Sludge Bomb, and the opponent is now down all shields. The opponent is going to need to Hydro Pump to take us out, and they actually fire off an Ice Beam. Drapion shrugs it off, and we make Sludge Bomb. Number 2 Sludge Bomb is going to do big damage to Azu. Azu now deep in the red. The opponent is going to have to dump their energy, and this is best case scenario. Ice Beam takes me out. I'm thinking, can I mod shot it down? And to be honest, that is pretty optimistic, but fuck it, let's have a go. I come in, farm up a bit more energy, fire off the Hydro Cannon. Hydro Cannon is going to take care of the unshielded Azumarill. Let's see what the opponent does. The opponent is having a think. Surely they're not double weak to Swamp, but they bring back in Talonflame. So I fire 2 mod shots and the Hydro Cannon. 1 turn before they reach their next charge move. Down goes Talonflame, and it is the Easter Bunny Diggersby in the back, and the opponent quickly runs for the hills. GG's, and thanks for playing. So those were my first battles that I have featured of my own gameplay this season. To be honest, I don't really enjoy featuring my own gameplay, especially in the early ranks, because with my style of commentary, I don't mean to disrespect any newer people that do play PvP. I just trash talk as a bit of fun. So if I've offended anyone, I do apologise. So if you're enjoying the content, smash that like button. If you want your battles featured on the channel, a link to my battle submission form is down below. And I'd like to say thanks for watching, and I will see you all in the next one.